Hi, my name is Vittorio Pudding, member of Intentism, and this is another little show that I thought might be useful to have to keep almost like a diary of various thoughts that we might have about the movement. It's called Present Intentions, and I've subtitled it Intention Matters Unplugged because I thought it would be a useful experiment, really, for any thoughts and any discussions that we might have as individuals or as a group that haven't really been polished, but we're trying to work things through just to lay them out, unadorned and unplugged. And I've been thinking a little bit about intention and intention in relationship to origins, because as soon as you start thinking about meaning of anything, any human gesture to the world, you inevitably think about origins and purposes behind that. Now, intentism has historically kept away from that, shied away from that. But I have found it intriguing in the art world and also in music. And I'm not an expert, obviously, in musical theory, but I've had a few thoughts and I just wanted to share them, as I say, unvarnished. And it'd be very interesting to hear what your thoughts are on this, particularly those that have perhaps thought these things through more thoroughly than I have, and maybe you've studied these things. There's a good book I recommend I read about 7 or 8 years ago called The Music Instinct, which tries to look at something that's become a taboo subject, I guess rightly so in many academic circles, and that's the origin of music. It's a very complicated thing to look at. Most people would say there's not really any good answers, in the same way that various schools of philosophy have avoided the origin of language because, again, it's very, very complex. I've been thinking particularly about rhythm and melody. I was thinking about rhythm a long time ago. I was going for a run, and the rhythmical rhythm of my running got me thinking about that. And a couple of days ago, I was going for a walk, and the idea of melody caught my attention. So just some thoughts to throw out here. Charles Darwin, in one of his great insights, in fact, people say it was his second greatest insight, is related to sexual selection and how animals may have an advantage over other animals, that they might be seen as more virile, and so they have sexual selection and they mate and they have children, and genetically they live on through their offspring. And Darwin was looking at music, and his insight of the origin of music was looking at birds and saying, well, when birds sing, that's musical, and it's a sign to bring attention to the other gender, the other sex, and that music is part of their sexual selection. It's attractive. Now, I was thinking about that long and hard for quite a long time, and for me, if you put a pin in that there, it doesn't explain very much at all, for the following reason, and that's that, yes, it does seem to be that if you have a look at singers and musicians, there is an attraction in the human species related to that. And so I'm sure the same in wildlife, in birds. But it doesn't answer the question that I originally expressed. And let me posit it again. And that is, why is music? Why is music? Why is it here? What's it here for? And to say that it makes you attractive is just a non-answer. Why is it attractive? Why is it making your vocal cords vibrate in a certain way that makes your notes go higher and lower in certain patterns? why does that attract other animals, other humans, etc., etc.? Darwin has just touched upon something he's observed, but it doesn't answer the question why. And it's complicated, isn't it? The only thing I was thinking of yesterday, and it's just an idea, I don't know, it's probably been thought of as before and in greater detail, is that one of the things that inspires attraction very often is youth, because youth suggests that you're virile, that you're able to reproduce, and that can be seen in the quality of your skin, shape of your body, that kind of thing. Often in things like makeup for women to make them look more youthful, and various other things like that. And something happens to voices. It's been written about, papers have been written about it quite extensively, that when you age, your voice becomes reedier, thinner, more fragile, and actually higher. You only have to look at some of the great baritones or bass speakers that are well known in history, like Orson Welles or something like that. Go and look on YouTube and see some of his later interviews, and you'll see that kind of booming voice is slightly weaker, it's slightly more fragile, but it's higher as well. And the pitch doesn't go up about a semitone or a tone as you after about 70 years old for men and women. Um, and perhaps the art of being flexible with a bird in changing their pitch very easily and having that strength to be able to do that demonstrates that their voice is not fragile, demonstrates therefore their body is not fragile, that they're in the first flush of youth. And that's all I wanted to posit on that. That maybe the melody there is the same as a peacock's tail. The flexibility of the voice is showing that they are youthful and virile, where an older bird may not be able to change the notes of their voice so easily. Um, it's a long way to working out why music is there, but it's one idea to put with many. Secondly, a couple of days ago when I was going out for a walk, I was thinking about rhythm. Now, rhythm in music has long been discussed. In, as I say, the music instinct, they talk about the thing that's been thought of 1,000 of years, that rhythm might be very much in our blood and our veins because it reminds us of our heartbeat. Heartbeat of the constant rhythm, and that can be seen maybe in rhythms of music. Um, now, I'm not quite sure about that. There's a lot of criticism in that. The book was quite critical about it, but I can't remember why. My thoughts are, yes, rhythm very much has this idea of life and death. Music, compared with art that's eternally there, your work is always there unless you put it away somewhere, has a lifespan. It's linear, isn't it? Music is linear, has a lifespan of 3 minutes or however long the song is. And that has parallel, is analogous to our lifespan as well. And the clock might be similar to the heartbeat and might be similar to the rhythm. But I'm not sure how aware we are of our heartbeats. I'm not sure whether that's something that we're so attuned with that we can sense it in music. But as I was walking that day, I suddenly became aware of the rhythms of all of life. And that idea of the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics, in a nutshell, in some ways, is that everything decays unless it's regenerated, unless it repeats itself. And a way of looking at that would be the fact that many things in life we can see need to be repeated because we can see the lifespan is short. So, for example, the heartbeat. So, for example, breathing. That my breath won't last forever. I need to breathe, and then the power of that breath dies out, like the third law of thermodynamics. So I need to breathe again, like uh, moving my arm. I can only extend it to a certain part, and I've got to bring it back in and extend it again. Like walking. Walking is for a young child, a toddler, is almost like an extreme sport, isn't it? Because you have to intentionally lose your balance and have the confidence, almost like jazz, of having the pattern, the rhythmical pattern of moving your feet left and right to the right rhythms and in the right places so you don't fall over. If you're not losing your balance, you're not going to go forward. And again, that's an instinctive rhythm that babies who are physically healthy will all be able to do that walk. That idea of things stop and things need to be started again. And I feel because of that, so much in the world, not just the heartbeat, but everything we see around us needs repetition, needs repetition, needs repetition because things die. I feel that's more attuned to our consciousness, and that might be more relevant to how we understand rhythm, and that's how maybe rhythm possibly, at least partially, developed, related to the second law of thermodynamics. It is interesting. It is interesting for me for a number of reasons, particularly to say this idea of music is linear. It has a lifespan compared with art that is a substance that's just there. I also feel related to rhythm that a lot of rhythm, not all rhythm, a lot of rhythm is more uh, full of the flesh and bodily and visceral and transient, where melody can sometimes feel immutable. And I was trying to work out that as well. Um, and I can only think that maybe that when you see people dancing, it is more often kind of a fleshful, human or animalistic quality, isn't it, of actions of dancing. It can sometimes be quite erotic as well, where you might hear a classical piece of music and it lifts you up. And my only thoughts with that is that rhythm, by definition, has to have repetition. If you have a rhythm and it doesn't repeat itself, it's no longer a rhythm, is it? It might be an accident of two beats together, but unless you hear a pattern, and a pattern by definition needs to be repeated for you to know it's a pattern, it's not rhythm. And if something is repeated, again by definition, mostly there's a mind behind it, there's an intender behind it, going back to intention. Now, there might be rhythms that are found in physics that I'm not aware. I'm sure there are certain things in the very sort of the smallest subatomic particles or what have you. But a lot of rhythms that we see, they've been chosen to be repeated. Even if I were thinking about maybe the rhythm of a train, that's had a human mind engineer something for a certain thing to be repeated and repeated and repeated so that the train can go along. So it just seemed to me that the world that we find ourselves in, we might hear the sound of the winds and certain things like that that are to our mind almost immutable because they'll outlast us in our lives. Certainly for people in the past, it would be something they would have considered that would have gone on and on and on. And perhaps that's another small reason out of millions of other ideas that I'm ignorant of why melody might have something that's transcendent in our minds. But rhythm is more bass, even though it's just as good, it's more bass because it is intertwined almost by definition with something that is finite, that needs an intender, a mind, even if it's an animal mind, even if it's a single cell organism, to want to repeat something and do it again and again and again. Just a couple of thoughts. I've got some thoughts as well related to art, as I'm a practicing fine artist primarily. There's another good book called The Art Instinct. I recommend both those, The Music Instinct and The Art Instinct. The Art Instinct is a couple of 100 pages long. It's very easy to read, very readable. The Music Instinct requires some knowledge of music. It's about 500 pages long, and it's quite complicated, and a little bit deeper. But I'll leave those maybe for tomorrow or for the next day. And I want to try and make these regular. I've not really planned them. I've got no notes. It's just thoughts that I'm mulling in my mind that I just wanted to share. And I'll be very happy in the comment section for people to talk about what they found helpful, what they disagreed with, what other areas they know that I'm perhaps ignorant of that they would like to share to this debate and this conversation. Big things, big things. Present intentions. Intentions matter. Unplugged. I'm Vittorio, and I am one of the founding members of Intentism, the arts movement. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye bye for now.